Hello and welcome to Warcraft Daily for today, the 2nd of August 2013. Now, today's episode is going to be absolutely packed of ginormous amounts of news, which is probably a good thing for all of you. There was a lot of interviews and stuff like that at Gamescom, and there is so much to talk about. It's pretty great after the kind of relative drought that we had last week. So let's get into it. Now, they said that the new characters are about 25% done. This is just first bits on new models. And that it's unlikely that all the new models will be released at once. The ones that are done will be released, and then more will be added throughout the patch cycle. I think that's fair enough. They can release a few of them, start gauging the responses, make sure they don't piss off everyone at once, I guess. But yeah, I can't wait to see these new models. I think it's a definite sticking point for new players coming to the game. They make a character and they see the models and they just think, what the hell's this? Because they look really silly. Let's move on. They said the new Garrosh model has a lot of bones and facial animations that could be similar to the kind of thing that we see in the new character models. Garrosh also provides a nice test case to see what players want, and if they like the idea of looking at a character that looks kind of like Garrosh, or at least has some of the more technical aspects like the animation and that kind of thing. They also said that they are being very careful that they don't change how the character feels, especially with the animations. I think that's very important because you need players to still be, retained to their character, to still make it feel like it's their character. Bring in the high fidelity models, it does kind of lead to a lot more work to do. They have to deal with stuff like beards, ponytails, hands, actual fingers, and it's really important that with adding all this new detail, they still have the same emotion as the old models, but just look better. And to that end, the models and animations are compared to the old ones at weekly art meetings to ensure that they all feel right. So it's definitely good to see that they're taking this very seriously and they're not rushing it, I suppose, because if they rushed it and released a bad product, well, people will be pretty pissed. Now, let's get on to some other things. They said that the toy items in Mists of Pandaria were bad for bag space, and that this is one of the first issues they want to solve. It seemed like they were going to have an ultimate storage thing, so I suppose you hit a button and that just shows all the toy items you have. So yeah, they're going to solve that first, then heirlooms, and then tabards, but they don't have any time frame to give us yet. Also, they said that spectator mode isn't likely in the future because the dev time can be better used. This is something I agree with. While it would be nice for PvP, and even I suppose for high-end raiding, I just, I don't really think it's worth the dev time when they could be adding new content. And they also said that, pretty much, similar thing, that the holiday events are not going to change in a major way because, really, they're already pretty good and time is better spent adding new stuff to the game. That's definitely something I agree with. Now, let's move on to patch 5.4 stuff. So the Burning of Stormwind, which everyone was talking about, is a heroic-only phase of Garrosh. It's also part of that vision thing, but mainly it's just a heroic-only phase of Garrosh. And the heirloom weapons are... So the players who have put a lot of work in, they get something that lasts them past that, past that expansion, past that tier, because all the gear is going to be pretty quickly replaced in the next expansion. So it's nice to have a weapon that's going to be very strong all the way up to level 100 or whatever the new level cap will be. I think this is very good. Now they also said that they're going to, they were originally thinking of porting Dalaran over to Orgrimmar to help with the war, but it would lead to too many performance issues and also it would take away from the players feeling like heroes. And I definitely think this was the right decision because while it may have seemed cool, Blizzard has got this tendency of making it feel like your victory was only because of the ultimate MacGuffin, this specific thing that happened. Oh, isn't it handy the Dalaran teleported over the city? It's more important that the players actually feel like heroes, and yeah, important. Now, let's get on. They also said that they were considering changing the Horde racials because they are better for raiding, but because a whole bunch of raiding guilds were actually changing from Alliance to Horde, although they decided it wouldn't be worth it in the end. This is unfortunate, I think, because the Horde racials are definitely more powerful than the Alliance ones. For example, Trolls do 5% more damage against beasts. Flat 5% against beasts. Bosses that are beasts include Horadon, Jikun, etc. So they do have this latent advantage, which is not balanced. I mean, 5% is quite a big number when it comes to balance, and then you have to throw class balance on top of that. It's a problem. It's definitely a problem. Anyway, they said that they added more ambient light in the zones in Cataclysm to allow for the new shadows to work properly. The problem is that this resulted in the nighttime having more ambient shadows. And in 5.4 they're going to test out darker nights in Stormwind and the Vale, which is very good. I think it's definitely a loss of immersion when the nights just feel too bright. I understand they don't want them to be pitch dark because well, it wouldn't really work, but having darker nights is nice, and that's one of the things I noticed in Final Fantasy XIV from the little bit I've been playing about it, is the nights are actually dark, and it's cool for it. Now let's talk to PvP stuff. That sentence made no sense. Anyway, they said that there isn't much competition with challenge modes, and they're probably a bit disappointed with that. This is, I suppose, I mean, challenge modes, they don't have much in-game, you know, you get something cool. Okay, there's the transmog set, but the people who are generally, you know, the high-end competitive raiders are not always the people who care about things like transmog, so I don't really know if that was it. That said, it was timed, and perhaps that, I would have thought actually would be more popular than it turned out to be. So there's that. They said they like competition in PvE and that world firsts are really nice, but the problem is they only happen once a patch. Challenge raids would be cool, but speed raiding probably isn't the best thing in terms of game design, and I think that's definitely right. They also said there will be another pass on the Valor system next expansion, but don't expect to be that capping your Valor in one raid. They also said that they might add a Valor catch-up system like with Conquest, so not having to log on every day might be okay. And this is interesting. So the way the Conquest system works is if you don't cap your 1800 Conquest, then, well, you don't cap it, but the amount, your limit of how much you can get a week will increase by, say, 1,000. So, okay, you can miss out on, you don't play a week. That means you cannot get the 1800 Conquest that you have in that week's cap, which means that it kind of shifts 1,000 over to the next week, so you can get, say, 2,800. It doesn't shift the whole number, because obviously you need to reward players for being, dedicated and keeping it up. But that's what that system does. Now, I would worry that this would it would nearly say, it's okay, you haven't played in 3 weeks, now you can chain run 40 dungeons to get your cap back. Or now you can do a crap ton of this, a crap ton of that. It might lead to burnout, so I'm not really sure what the best way to do this is. Honestly, I think it would be better just you can have as much as you want. There is no cap of Valor for acquiring, but there is a cap on spending. That would mean, well, I just think that would be a more sort of balanced way to do it. The problem is, of course, if something costs, if your weekly spend cap is 1,500, something costs 2,000, well, that's a bit of a problem, but I think a spending cap, though, would allow for players to be more flexible, but still be able to do what they want in terms of Valor gear. And finally, they said that Raden wasn't well executed, because he was only internally tested. That's definitely true. A lot of guilds found Lei Shen 25 Heroic to be harder than Raden 25 Heroic, and it should not have been that way. Now, let's talk about Cataclysm. Cataclysm. They said that they're happier with Mists of Pandaria than Cataclysm, and that Cataclysm had a weak endgame. So in Mists of Pandaria, they decided to add more varied endgame content, so there's your heroic scenarios, all the different sort of things you can do. But they did say that Mists of Pandaria was thematically weaker since there was no big threat. I think this was definitely true. I would also argue that Cataclysm was thematically weak because they didn't do Deathwing justice in the game. I think they did a better job of communicating Illidan via his army, not of course via himself, but they did a great job of communicating the Lich King. You wanted to kill that bastard. So yeah, thematically, it's very important in expansion, and they did say the players felt like it was a weaker expansion lore-wise because of that. They also said the players liked spending time in places like Shattrath, Dalaran, etc., and the Cataclysm didn't have an equivalent, and that was a big problem because you were just stuck in Stormwind the whole time. It wasn't enough variation. And also that Thrall felt like the hero, not the players. This was definitely true, and I think this is maybe, does this signify that they've decided to put Chris Metzen on his leash because he loves Thrall? Hell, he is Thrall in terms of voice acting, and he really overwrote the character in 5.4, or sorry, in 4. Whatever, to make it feel like Thrall, you were just Thrall's lackeys, and it's okay because Thrall, the ultimate hero, is here with the ultimate solution to the problem of Deathwing, blah blah blah, not the players doing it. So yeah, that was definitely a problem. Now, they also said that redoing classical dungeons has been quite popular. I don't really know if it was quite popular. I mean, I enjoyed the new troll instances. I thought they were really cool, but I haven't liked any of the other ones. If I see Skullomance, honestly, I'd rather just drop out of the group and take the Deserter debuff because I friggin' hate that place. It's weird. I have not enjoyed any of the old redone heroics since the troll ones, so I think that's weird. It's probably just me, though. If it means we get more dungeons, if they can still do like 8 to 10, say like 8 heroic dungeons and then add on 1 or 2 classic dungeons because it doesn't take as much time and it means we get more heroic dungeon content, then I'm all for it. Now next up, they were talking about the next expansion. They said the concept, environment and level design teams are the first to start work on it, and the encounter team is the last because they're still working in patch 5.4 and getting all the encounters working, which of course makes sense. They also said the release schedule depends partially on how long it takes to make quests and add them, and this is pretty much why the last patch doesn't use a lot of stuff that involves the exterior design team. So if you have a look at the Timeless Isles, you'll see that it's using the Jade Forest tile set, but I think it's presented in a varied enough way that it's not really much of a problem. Now let's talk about some miscellaneous stuff. They said that the Burdens of Xiaohao came from a part of the company that doesn't really work. They don't do stuff like that normally. It wasn't from the cinematics department. I think it was from creative development. So there's no firm ETA on another similar thing, but it definitely seems like Burdens of Xiaohao was very successful, and I'd be surprised if they didn't do it again. The next thing they talked about was traditional player housing. They don't think it's very interesting, bar in say Ultima Online, where your house is actually a part of the world and therefore has value. Making it phased away and only cosmetic wouldn't be interesting in their opinion. Now, this is where I'm going to talk about RuneScape. RuneScape, in my opinion, did player housing in an absolutely awesome way. So to those of you who never played RuneScape back in the day, well, the housing is instanced in that there's these different portals all over the world, which can take you to different areas for your housing. So you'd have like a kind of cheapy crappy one and then a really cool one. And you don't actually start with a house. I think it starts with one room, and you have one of your skills. I'd say in World of Warcraft they should just make it a secondary profession called construction. And you use your construction skill to make various items for your house. You can make, you can go get some lumber, get some nails, get some other materials, make a chair, make a table, and furnish your house. And other players can visit you and, chill out in your house. So that's kind of cool. But what was really interesting is they started adding in more gameplay things. For an example, you could build a boxing ring in your house. And then one of the really high-end money sinks is that you could build your own dungeon and populate it with monsters and stuff like that, which was really cool. They added gameplay elements. I think if World of Warcraft sort of took that idea and took it further, it would be great. Another important thing to realize about the RuneScape system is you actually built your house personally. Your character did. It wasn't like, oh, here's Sunsong Ranch, it's now yours, you can maybe decorate it a little bit. No, in RuneScape, you built the damn house. Its layout, that was up to however you built it, because the way you could build different rooms, you could build different floors. And you could have things like armor, like display cases and stuff, and to display your trophies of war and things like that. It was really cool. They could even maybe revamp, add in some achievements so that, I don't know, if you have a certain achievement, something appears in your trophy case, and your house can be sort of, your house can be a cool place to hang out, and it can be a bit of a testament to all that you have done through your however many years of playing the game. I'd recommend actually going to Polygon, that website, and looking at their tour of Richard Garriott's house. He's an old school developer. He actually was the guy behind Ultima, and they do a tour of his house, and it's full of random cool shit. Like, he has a Sputnik 1 in his, in his roof light thingy. I think they should make player houses a little bit like that, but also add some fun gameplay into it. So, yeah, let me know what you think about that. They also said they keep on wanting to revamp fishing, but they can never really find the time, and I suppose that's fair enough because there's more important things to do. And finally, that they seem to be done with adding guild levels and things for the current while. So that's it for the show. I hope you enjoyed it, quite a long one. Thanks for watching, please like and subscribe if you enjoyed it, and I'll see you next time.